All right, guys, we're back on the bike. Moto 541, 2024 KX450. We've made a few little bike changes. If you watched the last video, I did respring the front and rear end. We went up a spring rate on both ends to try to compensate for my belly, basically. The front end was a little bit soft, not bad, but a little bit soft stock. And I kind of got used to it and really made the bike corner really well, even in this loose, loamy dirt that we have here at Moto 541. So when I went to the stiffer springs, the bike felt a lot different. So definitely backed off the compression a whole bunch. I basically put the compression and rebound settings back to stock after I resprung it, so that I'd have just kind of a neutral place to start. Now back the compression off a couple clicks on both ends, try to soften it up a little bit. And we're kind of getting into that happy medium stage. I'm a believer that these springs are going to take a little bit of time to break in, and then they'll settle in, and then we'll really have a true base to really start messing with clickers. But that shouldn't take too long. So this is the final practice session of the day. This is my fourth moto. It's hot, in the 90s. Just trying to get acclimated, so to speak, to the weather. And track's drying out. As you can see, there's still some pretty good ruts in here. They watered it pretty heavily this morning. It was muddy and slippery first round, first session or two. And with the changes I'd made to the bike felt like there was no traction in the rear, and the front was pushing through everything. So that's when we started adjusting clickers. And in hindsight, and in all honesty, when it's wet and slippery out here, there never feels like there's any traction in the rear, so I don't want to overcompensate too much for that. But yeah, I think we kind of found a happy medium by the end of the day here, and a good place to really start. I have a few other things I'd like to do. I think I might back out the rebound damping a little bit. I feel like I'm not quite getting the pop off the jumps off the rear of the bike that I'd like to have. But I don't know, we'll play with that a little bit, see how it goes. And I might actually go in maybe a quarter on the high speed on the rear. So I don't know, we'll play with some stuff, see how it feels. At least it makes me think I'm doing something. And also new for today, the bike has 13 hours on it at the end of the day, 13.8 I think. We put a new rear tire on this, and yeah, I'm trying the AT82 off-road tire in the soft direction, which is kind of the scoop type tire direction. The tire still has a pretty stiff knobby, so it's not like the compounds. It's not a gummy tire, it's nothing like that. So hopefully we get some decent wear with it, and with the tread pattern, I'm hoping that it'll work a little bit like a scoop tire, and definitely not like an MX-14, but something that'll work, up at the peak and down here, just for the summer rides. So far, I like it. I only put an hour on it. 1 hour, 4 15-minute motos roughly. And like I said, that first one, when it was wet and slippery, it didn't feel like there was much traction back there. I don't think that was a tire problem, though. I think that the MX-34 that I had on here felt the same way. And plus, going stiffer in the rear is going to make that traction feel different for sure. So, not picking on the tire at all. Overall, I think I like it. Moto 541 is kind of a tough place to test tires, in my opinion, due to the fact they put so much wood down. They put a lot of wood chips on the track, and although it does eventually become kind of loamy, where there's heavy wood, it's just kind of slippery and loose, and a lot of it you just kind of have to ride. And I think a little bit like sand. You just try to keep the front, you know, the front of the bike light. Like this section in particular, you didn't want to put too much weight over the front of the bike, or the front tire just push. Now, just, you know, obviously you're watching this video. I'm not an expert at this, so the fast guys may tell you something totally different. So maybe you shouldn't be listening to me, but that's my opinion of it. Other than that, had a great day. I think the track's always better later in the day, even though it's dry and loose, and I just feel like I can feel what the track's giving me better in conditions like this than when it's wet and slippery. I'm getting tired here. It's been a long day sitting in the sun, riding dirt bikes. Had a great time, but I'm starting to kind of check up a little bit, and you'll see me kind of rolling some stuff and just trying to make it through the day. I almost didn't come out for this fourth session just because I was kind of just feeling fatigued, and you never want to do that one more ride sort of thing. That always ends up with me crashing typically. But you know, four or five motos is typically what I do. I feel like I get a good workout, get my money's worth. It's not free to ride at these tracks. I'm not complaining. I'll happily pay that to have a track to ride on. But yeah, just getting a little tired here in this last session. Really wasn't feeling it all day. I think it was some of the bike changes. I was just trying to get come up a little short there, that's for sure. Just trying to get a good feel for it, and you know, the bike felt different, which I knew it would. So definitely better overall. I feel more confident in my the bike's ability to absorb an over jump or an under jump, where before it would blow through that stroke pretty quick, and because it's riding lower in the stroke, typically it would often pack up under the braking bumps, and I think that I can work through some of that stuff now. Of course, I set the sag at about 104, 105. I might want a little bit more sag, because I still feel like for this track in particular, I've got a little bit too much weight on the front, especially since I'm not really turning the bike with the front wheel a whole lot. But I don't know. I'm just guessing, really. But that sun sure does take a lot out of you, especially when you're not used to it. We've had a few hot days, and then we've had some, you know, just 80-degree days as well, which is great. But yeah, it felt pretty warm today. Of course, still struggling with this jump a little bit. Didn't jump it a whole lot today. Just didn't know how I felt with the bike, and yeah, so I didn't jump it a lot. But I don't need to do all the jumps to have fun, and I still had fun. So let's just go ride our dirt bikes. I'm really, you know, my buddy Josh took some video for me, and I feel like my corner speed is just out the door. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm going backwards sometimes. So obviously I still have a lot to work on. That little jump there was tricky today too. It was really hard to clear today, so you'd end up jumping off the backside, and then there were some ruts that were, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Hard to explain. Slow guy problems, I guess. Okay, so coming up this backside tabletop over here, I cased this next one really hard and bounce all the way to the bottom, which is one of the scariest things for me. You know, it's hard to keep the bike rolling straight when that happens, and just a lot of bad things can happen. So yeah, it was a little bit confidence inspiring to not crash on this, and that may sound funny, but see, I just never get in the meat of the power soon enough here, and I just kind of case it and bounce to the bottom. But it didn't hurt my wrist, didn't hurt my ankles, didn't hurt anything. The bike soaked it up pretty well, so I was happy with that, even though I'd have been much happier not casing it. But sometimes you got to test that stuff too. You got to get an idea of what it's doing. AT81, 24KX 450. 1 hour of track time. Not really anywhere per se. Pretty happy with it so far, but we'll see. The track I was on was pretty loamy, so not really much hard packed in there. So the edges are still pretty good, pretty pristine, and that's what I expect.